and other 50-cent words that I can't recall at this moment because I'm old and busted. Yeah. Old and busted, that old Billy is old and busted. Do I have everything in the right order tonight? Yeah, so sometimes I get a little panic-stricken right at the last minute, just seeing that here we are. It's nearing the witching hour, as it were. And yet here we sit, not knowing, not being able somehow emotionally to acknowledge the fact that it's Tuesday, the day the time forgot. See, I was saying I'm a little. Welcome to Billy's hippie house. Hey, I'm wearing the headband because it's a cooling device. Yeah, be glad I'm not wearing my neck fan. You know, my neck fan. I do have a neck fan. I need all the attachments I can possibly have in order to operate this thing anymore. You wouldn't believe it if I told you. Anyway, it is Tuesday. It is the 25th day of July. And I should say right off the top here, remember, next week, no poetry break, right? We are taking a week off. The hand is having her surgery next Tuesday. It makes sense that it would happen on a Tuesday. You know, it does. I think it's perfectly appropriate that it happened on a Tuesday. Tuesdays tend to be days of portent, days of, shall we say, something that's, it's, what is it? It's, that word. What's that word? Archetypal. Yes, that's it. Ah, Kelly LaRue is in the house. That means my mom is in the house. Hello, mama. Thanks, Ma. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Kelly. That's my stepsister, Kelly. She's down there with my mom. Down there in Tacoma. Yeah, thanks. Ma probably doesn't like the headband. She doesn't like me in any kind of hats or anything. I don't know what that is. What's the deal with that? Yeah, I don't know. She thinks it'll cause me to go bald. Well, perhaps she's right. So how you guys doing? Are you guys okay? Great. We're going to start tonight with Kay Ryan, Elephant Rocks. Elephant Rocks. Yeah. Kay Ryan is, what do I say about Kay Ryan? She's, I don't know. She's a cross between Emily Dickinson, E.E. Cummings, and Billy Collins. And something. I don't know what she is. She's a world unto herself is what she is. But she takes very small things and makes them resonate. She makes them glow as if with some inner fire. You know? And her poems are evocative of what they're talking about. Like this one called Doubt. It's long lines, kind of blocky looking like a little brick. But then the next one, Mirage Oases, is kind of more airy. It's a lot more floaty-doty, to use the technical poetic term, known only to the literati. Sorry. You see why it said it's not necessary to look, to watch, Who we got? We got Finn Livingston's in the house. Cindy Snyder, Rochelle Hamill, Kelly LaRue, and my ma, Katrina Knight. Yes. Mark Kenny. Yes. Limeade on the Rocks, listening in. You mean the Limeade is listening in? So where's Mark? So the Limeade is the one who's commenting? This is Limeade. This is Mark's friend Limeade on the Rocks listening in. Well, where's Mark? Hey, Limeade on the Rocks. Where's Mark? The first Kay Ryan poem I'm going to read is called Doubt. Doubt. A chick has just so much time to chip its way out. Just so much egg energy to apply to the weakest spot or whatever spot it started at. It can't afford doubt. Who can? Doubt uses albumin at twice the rate of work. One backward look by any of us can cost what it cost Orpheus. Neither may you answer the stranger's knock, even though it is the person from Porlock who eats dreams for dinner. His napkin stained the most delicate colors. It kind of takes it, it's kind of delayed, and then it's kind of you settle into, oh, okay. Yeah. Doubt, it's called. A chick has just so much time to chip its way out, just so much egg energy to apply to the weakest spot or whatever spot it started at. It can't afford doubt. Who can? Doubt uses albumin at twice the rate of work. One backward look by any of us can cost what it cost Orpheus. Neither may you answer the stranger's knock. You know it is the person from Porlock who eats dreams for dinner, his napkin stained the most delicate colors. You see how she just takes a little something, makes it, shines it up, shines it up. This next one is called Mirage Oases. Now that's, the plural of oasis, so a place in the desert, but it's Mirage Oases. First among places susceptible to trespass are mirage oases, whose graduated pools and shaded grasses, palms and speckled fishes give before the lightest pressure and are wrecked. For they live only in the kingdom of suspended wishes, thrive only at our pleasure checked. Mirage Oases. First among places susceptible to trespass are mirage oases, whose graduated pools and shaded grasses, palms and speckled fish give before the lightest pressure and are wrecked. For they live only in the kingdom of suspended wishes, thrive only at our pleasure checked. The nature of an oasis is to deceive. They live only in the kingdom of suspended wishes. Yeah, she knows what she's doing. She's not just fooling around. She knows what she's doing. And here's one, that vase of lilacs, this is called. This is the last one I want to read. I'm just giving you a taste. Of a few different poets tonight that maybe we haven't spent a lot of time on. Some we've spent a little time on. That vase of lilacs. Now I see that, that as being that vase of lilacs. Not that vase of lilacs, but that vase of lilacs. That one right there. Just off camera. Where it can be anywhere I want. That vase of lilacs. Not just lilacs are like that. Other purples also leave us vacant portals, susceptible to vagrant spirits. But take that vase of lilacs. Who goes near it is erased. In spite of Proust, the senses don't attach us to a place or time. We're used by sweetness, taken, defenseless, invaded by a line of Saracens, picks, angles, double rows of fragrance-loving ancients, people matched casually by nose in an impersonal and intermittent immortality of purple. So, she's describing not only the sight of lilacs, but the scent of lilacs and how great it is. Lilacs smell great. So that vase of lilacs. I don't know that for sure. It seems like it would be the way she would think. Not just lilacs are like that. Other purples also leave us vacant portals, susceptible to vagrant spirits. But take that vase of lilacs. Who goes near it is erased. In spite of Proust, the senses don't attach us to a place or time. We're used by sweetness, taken, defenseless, invaded by a line of Saracens, picks, angles, double rows of fragrance-loving ancients, people matched casually by nose, in an impersonal and intermittent immortality of purple. purple. The purple world, the multisensory purple world that engulfs a person. Elephant Rocks is the name of the book. The poet is Kay Ryan. I have not kept up with Kay Ryan. I'm sure she's got 5 books since this one came out in 2000 and something or other early. Oh, sorry, 1996. Yeah, undoubtedly there's more. I know I've got the Niagara River over there too, which I need to bring it to the poetry break some night. And some night I will. If it's on the shelf, we'll get to it. Trust me. Or don't. I'm still dipping into Marge Piercy, Made in Detroit, which I read a couple from last week. I know that I'm dipping in because I've discovered that this book is actually, first of all, it's about twice the length. It's almost exactly twice the length of a normal poetry book. Normal poetry book is about 80 pages, right? This one's 160 some pages before you get to the index of whatever it is, first lines or titles or whatever it is. But there's 6 sections in this book. The first section is called Made in Detroit. The second, Ignorance Bigger Than the Moon. The third, The Poor Are No Longer With Us. The fourth, Working at It. The fifth, That Was Cobb Farm. And sixth, Looking Back in Utter Confusion. I can't wait to get to that last part, looking back in utter confusion. That sounds like something that's going to resonate, But tonight I thought I'd go into The Poor Are No Longer With Us, the third section in the book, and see what she's into there. She gets a little emphatic in this section as well as in the first section, but with a different kind of a feel to it. So I thought I would do that. I'm going to read a couple of these, and then I'll go to the mailbag, which is up next. So stay tuned. And now a short word from our sponsor, the Rae Armantrout commemorative shot glasses. Get yours today. That's what I should do. I should have a poetry break shot glass made up. It could be like a, what do they call those? When NPR is doing it, they've got that word. Here I am, a word guy, and I forget about every third one I'm trying to use. Well, we used to call it swag, but that's not the word they use, on the air. They call it something else. Anyway, this is Marge Piercy. The first one is called The Suicide of Dolphins. No one, not even the scientists who study you, knows why you beach yourselves, whole family groups, communities, on our beige sand to gasp and die, unless the volunteers, called phone to phone quickly in a spider web of summoning, can keep you wet and push you into deep water again, like shoving a huge wet sofa. Some think it's disease or following your leader into dangerous or chasing fish into water too shallow so you run aground. An old fisherman said to me, they remember how they used to live on the land. They remember. We know nothing, but still we grieve. Is your act any more opaque than a friend who drinks himself into a fiery crash? Another who burnt his brain to a crisp on crack? The woman who could not walk out on her husband and even after the 5th trip to the emergency ward, leaving only feet first when he shot her? Or my friend's daughter who hanged herself at 15 because of names she was called, because of words on a computer screen, because of a boy? We cannot stop each other, but still we grieve. She doesn't pull her punches, does she? Yeah. What was I listening to? I was listening to a news story about a meteorologist who was talking about climate change on his newscast and started getting hate mail for it. I thought that was a little odd, a little extreme perhaps. The Suicide of Dolphins by Marge Piercy. No one, not even the scientists who study you, knows why you beach yourselves, whole family groups, communities, on our beige sand to gasp and die unless the volunteers, called phone to phone quickly in a spider web of summoning, can keep you wet and push you into deep water again, like shoving a huge wet sofa. That's all one sentence, but it reads completely smoothly because of where she breaks the line. Okay, like shoving a huge wet sofa. Some think it's disease, or following your leader into danger, or chasing a fish into water too shallow so you run aground. An old fisherman said to me, they remember how they used to live on the land. They remember. We know nothing, but still we grieve. Is your act any more opaque than a friend who drinks himself into a fiery crash? Another who burnt his brain to a crisp on crack? The woman who could not walk out on her husband even after the 5th trip to the emergency ward, leaving only feet first when he shot her? Or my friend's daughter who hanged herself at 15 because of names she was called, because of words on a computer screen, because of a boy? We cannot stop each other, but still we grieve. A lot of power in that. A lot of power, you know? Yeah. All those internal combustion engines that used to come from Detroit. Marge Piercy grew up to be one herself. The poor are no longer with us is the name of this poem, also the name of this section of poems. And these are not hugely long poems, but this is a great book. Really worth it if you like chewy poetry that's substantive and speaks at least reflexively out of one particular perspective, which I think is great. I think it's wondrous. Yes, Mary Pecka's in the house. Laurie Trout! Janine Boggs. John Gorski, hey! Bridget Lacey, cool! Welcome aboard, everybody. The second, Laurie, I don't know if you were around for the first. I'm sorry, I didn't scroll down enough to see if you were here for the first one, but the second Laurie Trout commemorative shot, it's red wine again tonight, folks. I'm a cheap date. Yeah. The Poor Are No Longer With Us by Marge Piercy. No one's poor any longer. Listen to politicians. They mourn the middle class, which is shrinking as we watch in the mirror. The poor have been discarded already into the oblivion pale of not-to-be-spoken words. They are as lepers were treated once, to be shipped off to fortified islands of the mind to rot quietly. If poverty is a disease, quarantine the victims. If it's a social problem, imprison them behind high walls. Maybe it's genetic, how often they catch easily preventable diseases. Feed them fast garbage, and they'll die before their care can cost you. Of heart attacks, stroke. Provide cheap guns, and they'll kill each other well out of your sight. Ghettos are such dangerous places. Give them schools that teach them how stupid they are, but always pretend they don't exist because they don't buy enough, spend enough, give you bribes or contributions. No ads target their feeble credit. They are not real people like corporations. Another little shotgun blast of a poem. And, there's got to be room for that in our thoughts about poetry, because poetry does do many things. It can be constructive, it can be destructive, it can be observational, it can be editorial, it can be any number of things. And I'm trying to give you a little bit of a cross-section of writing by women who cover that whole political spectrum that men have always covered. I just don't know the women poets. There were probably women poets 500 years ago writing topical stuff like this, but I don't know their names, and I'm aware of that. And it's, it's not without its sense of shame at my gender and its ways. But ways are always changing. The poor are no longer with us. No one's poor any longer. Listen to the politicians. They mourn the middle class, which is shrinking as we watch in the mirror. The poor have been discarded already into the oblivion pale of not-to-be-spoken words. They are as lepers were treated once, to be shipped off to fortified islands of the mind to rot quietly. If poverty is a disease, quarantine its victims. If it's a social problem, imprison them behind high walls. Maybe it's genetic, how often they catch easily preventable diseases. Feed them fast garbage and they'll die before their care can cost you of heart attacks, stroke. Provide cheap guns and they'll kill each other well out of your sight. Ghettos are such dangerous places. Give them schools that teach them how stupid they are. But always pretend they don't exist because they don't buy enough, spend enough, give you bribes or contributions. No ads target their feeble credit. They are not real people like corporations. Marge Piercy, showing her sharpened teeth there in Made in Detroit. I'm nowhere near through with this, so if I find stuff in that last section, I may bring Marge Piercy back for one more go-around here in the ever-popular poetry break situation. Yes. Okay, I'm going to read Oldmanhood next because there's only one of them. And it's a very specific poem of gratitude to a guy named Thomas, who was very helpful to me in a time of emotional crisis. Now, just before we went live last week on the poetry break, it seems like it was an hour or less before that, I got a call from my stepsister-in-law, Donna, who was sitting with my mom so that she could watch the poetry break last week, like Kelly LaRue is tonight. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. And if you happen to be watching, my mom told me, Donna hates poetry. So, Kelly, I don't know how you feel about it, but I hope you brought a book along, something that, you can put earbuds in. You don't have to have anything playing through them, little noise cancellation. Read your book. This show is not for people who don't like poetry. I admit that freely. Anyway, Thomas, what happened, I got notification from Donna just before we went live last Tuesday that my mother's phone had been disconnected. Now, granted, my mom had been planning to switch phone and internet and television providers. But when the new company came over, they found that they had to do some digging on her property before they'd be able to switch. So the order to switch her old number to the new company had been canceled. Well, something got lost in the communication between Corporation A and Corporation B. And so on the 7th, that was on July 9th that the new person came over to look the place over and hook her up, and found out he couldn't. And we were told that it would probably be 90 days minimum before they would be able to connect her. So we were all kind of like, oh, okay. And we had no idea about the porting order that goes from one company to the other automatically when the technician signs on at the site to begin the hookup. The porting order is sent so that the old company will release my mom's number so that it can be put on to the new company. I'm explaining all of this for a reason. Well, on the 17th, suddenly, my mom's phone was disconnected, and it didn't get reconnected until the 20th. And those 3 days, or actually it was like two days and 10 hours, or 10 and a half hours, were kind of fraught. They took a lot out of Diane and me. We were both. She spent all day on Wednesday of that week either chatting online or talking to one of the companies, one of the corporations. I spent my day while I was at work at our doctor's office, either chatting or talking to the second company. And neither of us got any satisfaction all day Wednesday. So by Wednesday evening, we were in a kind of a hyper agitated state. And I told Diane, Diane said, okay, you have to call these people back, because I had been able to wrangle finally toward the end of my second chat, because there is no phone number. There's no phone number listed anymore. It's chat. And yeah, you can chat with a live person, or they say it's a live person. It starts out with the robot chatting with you until you do something, say some kind of magic word, and they hook you up with a real person at the other end of the chat. So I had done 2 long chats on Wednesday. And at the end of the second long chat, I was given the special porting department line to call because these people could change the schedule. We had found out that company A still had my mom's phone number, but she was scheduled to be reconnected on August 14th. August 14th. So the landline, and Mom, forgive me, it's her only contact with the outside world. Her cell phone is not workable for her. She doesn't do computers. So anyway, finally, so I told Diane. Diane said, "I'll work for you tomorrow. You got to call this other company." And I said, "Okay, they're gonna deal with me, or they're gonna never get rid of me. I'm gonna refuse to hang up until I have satisfaction." So I got on the phone with this tech named Thomas the next morning, on Thursday morning, and told him that. And he was, in 25 minutes, it was scheduled for that day. I said, "I'm not getting off the phone until it's either today or tomorrow that she's going to be hooked back up." She's had the same phone number since 1965, as near as I can figure. Anyway, so this poem is dedicated to Thomas because Thomas, completely innocent prior to my getting on the line with him, was treated to a slice of what we'd call activated old manhood, I get into it in the poem. "Thomas, you can call me Bill. You made my ma's phone work again. You're my hero, and because of you, I get to be one too. I'm sorry I yelled. I'd been frantic, adrenalized, and relatively sleepless for 36 hours. And when it was done, I soaked you with buckets of gratitude. But at least the gratitude was warm. If we ever meet, let me give you the $50 you need to get home after the party. Let me honor my hero with coffee and conversation, because it's rare one. It's the rare one who shares with a hysterical old man." I'll read that again. We'll get wrapped up in my tongue got wrapped around my molars there. That's what happens sometimes. It's genetic, Ma. "Thomas, you can call me Bill. You made my ma's phone work again. You're my hero, and because of you, I get to be one too. I'm sorry I yelled. I'd been frantic, adrenalized, and relatively sleepless for 36 hours. And when it was done, I soaked you with buckets of gratitude, but at least the gratitude was warm. If we ever meet, let me give you the $50 you need to get home after the party. Let me honor my hero with coffee and conversation, because it's the rare one who shares with a hysterical old man." There you are. That's your old manhood for the last 2 weeks, really. I've been writing other stuff, but I've been I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Diane's impending surgery. I don't think so. We seem pretty together on the whole program, but it's a program neither of us have ever been through before, so maybe that is it. I don't know. Mary Pecka. We got an email from Mary Pecka this week. She says this: "Sorry I missed you live, but I never miss you later." That can be taken a number of ways, but I think I know what she meant. Yeah. "Sorry I missed you live, but I never miss you later." Thanks, Mary. I'm just kidding. She's referencing a old manhood piece I read last week about how do I, God, I can't even remember my own words. You know the one. How do I liberate old manhood, right? That's what I was reading about. How do I liberate old manhood? Remove it from the patriarchy. Give it an evolutionary update and reboot. I'd need a different body. You remember that one? That's what she's referring to in her poem. On the fold, put this back over there. Okay. And the poem she sent is called Proceed with Caution. This old man I know expressed his desire to feel what a woman feels, even if only for a day. But I feel, and believe all the women feel it too, the obligation to warn him, be very careful and pick the right day. So, yeah. I said duly noted in response to this poem. I guess it might matter the day, but I said in my poem that I was going to make it a memorable day, or I can't remember what I said. Something more poetic than that, certainly. Proceed with Caution by Mary Pecka. But she's out there tonight. Good job, Mary. She always sends good stuff, Mary P. does. This old man I know expressed his desire to feel what a woman feels, even if only for a day. But I feel and believe all the women feel it too, the obligation to warn him, be very careful and pick the right day. Mary Pecka. I wish I had a whole book of Mary Pecka to read, and I could read 2 or 3 of them in a row. Heard from Nils Peterson this week. And this is a prose piece, but it's quite short and quite poetic. It's called On Souls Clapping Their Hands and Singing. And there's a French phrase in here at the end of this first paragraph that I will probably mess up. I asked Diane for help, and now I've forgotten what she said. So bear with me. End of a strange day, sitting with a drink, listening to jazz vocals, old songs, talking slow, the way one does at such an hour, particularly if one's companion is oneself. Melancholic but mellow, sipping a vintage of old age at Le Herbe. For his 75th birthday, Dave Brubeck invited a bunch of young tigers and old lions to recording studio and composed and recorded an original celebration of each. The only unoriginal melody was How High the Moon. This was a celebration of Jon Hendricks' jazz vocal stylings, bringing his now old man's voice, all the bassness out of it, yet but soprano thin, quivery black. He sings How High the Moon, somewhere there's heaven, it's where you are, and yes, we believe it. That there is one, and it's where she, whoever she might be, is. Dave Brubeck rumbles beneath in sweet elegiac support. I think the more that voice lost, the more beautiful it became. Is there a blessing then in loss? A wisdom? And tonight there's Sinatra singing Send in the Clowns, the truth of a longing in his voice, not the strutting way of I did it my way. Maybe he's thinking of Ava. I like to think so. And Tony Bennett, gone now, just a day ago, comes in with lovely, never change, keep that breathless charm, won't you please, arrange it 'cause I love you and the way you look tonight. Almost no voice left. One knows about the dementia, no Lady Gaga here to help, just old age dealing as well as it can with pitch and memory and a vision and singing. And yes, one thinks of Yeats. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing, for every tatter in its mortal dress. Have I sneezed on the poetry break before? I think I did once before. Didn't I? Summertime. My first memory of Tony was of a young worker at their... My first memory of Tony was of a young worker at their place where I had a summer job in the early 50s trying to imitate him singing Blue Velvet. It was the first I heard of song and singer, though soon both were everywhere. His voice had a different quality, and the title of his song carried it. There was a quality of blue velvetness in it, similar, though not the same velvetness as Mel Torme's, whose nickname, as I know you know, if you've read this far, was the Velvet Fog. The Velvet Fog, Mel Torme was called. Yeah. Is Mel Torme still alive? I don't know. I'm not sure he is. That's it. On Souls Clapping Their Hands and Singing by Nils Peterson. End of a strange day, sitting with a drink, listening to jazz vocals, old songs, talking slow the way one does at such an hour, particularly if one's companion is oneself, melancholic but mellow, sipping a vintage of old age at Le Heur Bleu. For his 75th birthday, Dave Brubeck invited a bunch of young tigers and old lions to a recording studio and composed and recorded an original celebration of each. The only unoriginal melody was How High the Moon. This was a celebration of Jon Hendricks, jazz vocal stylist, bringing his now old man's voice, all the bassness out of it yet, but not soprano thin, quavery, black. He sings How High the Moon. Somewhere there's heaven, it's where you are, and yes, we believe it. And there is one, and it's where she, whomever she might be, is. Dave Brubeck rumbles beneath in sweet elegiac support. I think that more that voice lost, the more beautiful it became. Is there a blessing then in loss? A wisdom? And tonight there's Sinatra singing Send in the Clowns. The truth of a longing in his voice, not the strutting way of I did it my way. Maybe he's thinking of Ava. I like to think so. And Tony Bennett, gone now just a day ago, comes with lovely, never, never change. Keep that breathless charm, won't you please? Arrange it 'cause I love you and the way you look tonight. Almost no voice left. One knows about the dementia. No Lady Gaga here to help. Just old age dealing as well as it can with pitch and memory and a vision and singing. And yes, one thinks of Yeats. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless soul clap its hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in its mortal dress. My first memory of Tony was of a young worker at their place where I had a summer job in the early 50s, trying to imitate him singing Blue Velvet. It was the first I heard of song and singer, though both soon were everywhere. His voice had a different quality, and the title of his song carried it. There was a quality of blue velvetness in it, similar, though not the same velvetness, as Mel Torme's, whose nickname, as I know you know if you've read this far, was the Velvet Fog. Nils Peterson, bringing it. Bringing the poetry in whatever form he chooses to write it down. There's your mailbag, folks. And your taste of old manhood for this night. Where are we at? 7:38. All right. Next up in our cavalcade of stars tonight, Rae Armantrout. Rae Armantrout, new and selected 2001 to 2015. It's called Partly. So there's more Rae Armantrout to be had. Now I'm just going to read you a couple of these too. You know, we may end early tonight. Maybe not. Now, Rae Armantrout is not unlike Kay Ryan, only Rae Armantrout, at least in my limited exposure to the poetry they create, is of someone a little more even in the clouds, possibly, than Kay Ryan is. A little less concrete in the images. And I'm just riffing here. You know, if there's anybody that really knows about poetry out there, they're probably taking a red pencil and just crossing out and putting a big X through my face on their computer screen. So I'm going to read you a couple of from this new and selected poems, which came out in 2015, just as a way to kind of dip our toes into a little. I think I read Rae Armantrout before. She was in one of the anthologies I was reading from, or some other thing. I feel like I've read Rae Armantrout. Oh, I think I may have gotten one of their poems off of the poetry site, the Poetry Foundation site. Anyway, this first one is called Mistakes. It's in two parts. I will enumerate them as I go. It's very short. Mistakes. 1. The subject will claim that she has been taken to the wrong place, that the room she is brought back to is not the room she left, that these comings and goings are happening to someone else, are gathering momentum controlled by a secret mechanism that she needs to tell someone. 2. I walk out the door to the stone bench without meaning to, without meaning it, each step jarring my frame as it would anyone's. That's the poem. Mistakes. It's called Mistakes. 1. The subject will claim that she has been taken to the wrong place, that the room she is brought back to is not the room she left, that these comings and goings are happening to someone else, are gathering momentum controlled by a secret mechanism, that she needs to tell someone. 2. I walk out the door to the stone bench without meaning to, without meaning it, each step jarring my frame as it would anyone's. There you go, a couple of mistakes. Yeah. So, a little different than Kay Ryan, though not completely dissimilar also. Rick Lewis in the house! Kelly Murphy's in the house! Hey, Kelly! Yeah, I can't read the fine print tonight. The large print giveth, the small print taketh away. Here, let me just switch these up real quick. That might help with focusing on the poetry as well. Yeah, much better. I still can't read the fine print. But I can see Bridget, Rick, my darling Diane, Cindy Snyder, John Gorski. Okay, one more from Rae Armantrout. Then we're going to move on again. Yes. This one's called If, and it's in 3 short parts, which I will enumerate. If. 1. One cultivates a garden of peculiars, beyond reproach, a plant like a half-folded accordion, a plant like a pale rock, split in two, as if to ask, where is the original? 2. And a few self-starters with their sharp rocket fin leaves. 3. You, husk-light, forgetful, with these hollow bones, this flyaway hair, are you ready for a new season? If it's just this, nutmeg-flavored latte, pumpkin. That's the poem. If, it's called. If. Listen for the ifs. Are there ifs in each section? Yes. 1. One cultivates a garden of peculiars, beyond reproach, a plant like a half-folded accordion, a plant like a pale rock, split in two, as if to ask, where is the original? 2. And a few self-starters with their sharp rocket fin leaves. Now, section 2 is all in parentheses. And a few self-starters with their sharp rocket fin leaves. So we're still in the world of plants, I assume. 3. You, husk-light, forgetful, with these hollow bones, this flyaway hair, are you ready for a new season? If it's just this, nutmeg flavored latte, pumpkin. Rae Armantrout. This is from Partly. Also a healthy selection. The section of new poems is the longest section in the book, which I appreciated. I was like, if you're going to do a new and selected, then let's have a nice healthy chunk of new, because I'm going to end up buying all those other books that I'm getting in the selected if I really like you. So there's like 50 pages of new stuff before you even get to the selected from earlier works, which I've never read. So a new and selected is a good place to start if you're interested in the poet, as long as you're willing to dip back further and buy the complete volumes of the selected. You know what I'm saying? Next stop, we're with Margaret Atwood. This is from her collection, The Door. And there are two, I think, that I wanted to read here, although I could just keep going. This is a second book of hers after I got, what was that one called? What was that one called? It was called... It was called Dearly. That's I think her most recent book of poetry, and that's the first book of Margaret Atwood's poetry that I've read. So when I got that one, I found this one used also, The Door, and bought it. I do buy a lot of used books. And I'm sorry to Margaret Atwood because she probably didn't see a dime of my sale. But still, I don't know. What's my name? Anyway, I'm going to read a few of these from this book called The Door. The first one is called Gasoline. It's the first poem in the book. Shivering in the almost drizzle inside the wooden outboard, nose over gunwale, I watched it drip and spread on the sheenless water. The brightest thing in wartime, a slick of rainbow, ephemeral as insect wings, green, blue, red, pink, my shimmering private sideshow. Was this my best toy then? This toxic smudge, this overspill from a sloppy gas can filled with essence of danger? I knew that it was poison, its beauty an illusion I could spell flammable. But still, I loved the smell, so alien, a whiff of star stuff. I would have liked to drink it, inhale its iridescence, as if I could. That's how gods lived, as if. If you think about it. I like the way that finishes. Kind of gives you a little zunt there at the end. It was a zunt. It's another literary term. You can look that up. Zunt. Z-O-O-N-T. No apostrophe. It's not like you zunt do that. I zunt do that. It's not like that. It's something completely other. Gasoline by Margaret Atwood. Shivering in the almost drizzle inside the wooden outboard, nose over gunwale, I watch it drip and spread on the sheenless water. The brightest thing in wartime, a slick of rainbow, ephemeral as insect wings, green, blue, red, and pink, my shimmering private sideshow. Was this my best toy, then? This toxic smudge, this overspill from a sloppy gas can filled with essence of danger? I knew that it was poison, its beauty an illusion I could spell flammable. But still, I loved the smell, so alien, a whiff of star stuff. I would have liked to drink it, inhale its iridescence, as if I could. That's how gods lived, as if. Yeah. Ooh, baby. I love this stuff. Didn't I have? Yeah, I do. I've got two more of these. They're all about the same length, too. This one's called Europe on $5 a Day. Now, this book came out. When did this book come out? Probably can't do Europe on $5 a day anymore. 2007. She's recalling her youth in this poem, so, yeah. Europe on $5 a day. Sunrise. The thin, pocked sheets are being washed. The city's old, but new to me, and therefore strange, and therefore fresh. Everything is clear but flat, even the oculist's dingy eyes, even the butcher's with its painted horse, its trays of watery entrails and slabs of darkening flesh. I walk along, looking at everything equally. I've got all I own in this bag. I've cut myself off. I can feel the place where I used to be attached. It's raw, and when you grate your finger, it's a shredded mess of images. It hurts. But where exactly on me is this torn off stem? Now here, now there. Meanwhile, the other girl, the one with the memory, is coming nearer and nearer. She's catching up to me, trailing behind her like red smoke, the rope we share. Europe on $5 a Day by Margaret Atwood. Sunrise. The thin, pocked sheets are being washed. The city's old but new to me, and therefore strange, and therefore fresh. Everything is clear but flat. Even the oculist's dingy eyes, even the butcher's with its painted horse, its trays of watery entrails and slabs of darkening flesh. I walk along, looking at everything equally. I've got all I own in this bag. I've cut myself off. I can feel the place where I used to be attached. It's raw, as when you grate your finger. It's a shredded mess of images. It hurts, but where exactly on me is this torn-off stem? Now here, now there. Meanwhile, the other girl, the one with the memory, is coming nearer and nearer. She's catching up to me, trailing behind her like red smoke, the rope we share. There you go. Margaret Atwood. Europe on $5 a day. It's the hand, ladies and gentlemen, the hand. Look, the hand, unfettered by abrasive attachments. I have several, but I'm wearing even as we speak. In places I choose not to show you. But the hand knows all. And yet, she'll still come in and, hand me a list of our participants. Wow, this is a long list. What the heck? Really? Mark Kinney, Katrina Knight, Ma Strepp, and Kelly LaRue. Thanks to both of you. Rochelle Hamill, Finn Livingston, Cindy Snyder, Mary Pecka, Lori Trout, Janine Boggs, John Gorski, Bridget Lacey, Kelly Murphy, Rick Lewis, Taylor Schneider, hey! And Donna Strepp. Donna is here. Donna, don't punish yourself on your off week, It's nice when you run into somebody who doesn't like poetry and is willing to own it. I love that. Donna's a classic human being. Donna and Kelly both. Some of God's greatest hits. Right there. Both on the Greatest Hits album. Okay, one more from Margaret Atwood. Then I've got one more poem to read to you. So, 7:53, look at this. Split second timing. This is called Butterfly. My father, 90 years ago, at the age of, my guess, 10, walked 3 miles through the forest on his way to school, along the sedgy, wet-foot shore of the brimming, eel-filled, rush-fringed, peat-brown river, leaving a trail of jittering black flies, his hands already broad and deft at the ends of his fraying sleeves. Along this path he noticed everything, mushroom and scat, wild bloom, snail and iris, club moss, fern and cone. It must have been an endless breathing in. Between the wish to know and the need to praise, there was no seam. One day he saw a drenched log floating heavily downstream, and on it a butterfly, blue as eyes. This was the moment, I later heard, that shot him off on his tangent into the abstruse world of microscopes and numbers, lapel pins, cars, and wanderings. Away from the 10 square miles of logged-out bush lots he never named as poverty. And the brown, meandering river he was always in some way after that trying in vain to get back to. I think that's a great poem. Isn't that good? Butterfly, it's called. My father, 90 years ago, at the age of, my guess, 10, walked 3 miles through the forest on his way to school, along the sedgy, wet-foot shore of the brimming, eel-filled, rush-fringed, peat-brown river, leaving a trail of jittering black flies, his hands already broad and deft at the ends of his fraying sleeves. Along this path he noticed everything, mushroom and scat, wild bloom, snail and iris, club moss, fern and cone. And it must have been an endless breathing in between the wish to know and the need to praise. There was no seam. One day he saw a drenched log floating heavily downstream, and on it a butterfly, blue as eyes. This was the moment, I later heard, that shot him off on his tangent into the abstruse world of microscopes and numbers, lapel pins, cars, and wanderings. Away from the 10 square miles of logged-out bush lots he never named as poverty, and the brown meandering river he was always in some way after that trying in vain to get back to. That's some tasty stuff, man. Margaret Atwood, that's from The Door. All right? Now, phew. I was going through my new shelves, my newly rearranged shelves. I had to move everything around so nothing is where it used to be. I like doing that once in a while, just to confuse myself so that I'll find something that I haven't seen in a long time. I first read this book the year it came out, I believe, and I can't remember if it was Mary P. who turned me on to it. Mary will remember, maybe. I don't know. Maybe her memory is no better than mine at this point. But it came out in the 1998. It is the first book, I believe, from Deborah Garrison called A Working Girl Can't Win. Yes. And I just wanted to read one of these. Some night we'll spend the evening with Deborah Garrison, although I really feel like I should get some of her more recent stuff to kind of, because these are mostly poems from her singlehood and her courtship years. She's got like 3 kids now and lives in New Jersey with her husband and her 3 kids and is probably writing a whole different kind of poem. But these feel like they're out of personal experience, but they might be out of personal fancy or something. I don't know. You tell me. Well, I've only given you one shot at it tonight. This is called The Firemen. The Firemen. I thought of the LaRue family because they have some firemen. Tim and their son, Parker, are both firemen. The Firemen, it's called, by Deborah Garrison. God forgive me, it's the firemen, leaning in the firehouse garage with their sleeves rolled up on the hottest day of the year. As usual, the darkest one is handsomest. The oldest is handsomest. The one with the thin, wiry arms is handsomest. The young one already going bald is handsomest, and so on. Every day I pass them at their station. The word sexy wouldn't do them justice. Such idle men are divine, especially in summer, when my hair sticks to the back of my neck. A dirty wind from the subway grate blows up my skirt, and I feel vulgar, lifting my hair, gathering it together, tying it back while they watch, as a kind of relief. Once, one of them walked beside me to the corner, looking into my eyes. He said, "Will I never see you again?" Gutsy, I thought. I'm afraid not, I thought. What I said was, "I'm sorry." But how could he look into my eyes if I didn't look equally into his? I'm sorry, as though he'd come close, as though this really were a near miss. So, again, let me stress, I am a stranger to the world of female lust, whether it's for men, for women, whatever. I'm a stranger to it, but I am human, so I know what desire feels like in me. But I have no sense that what it feels like in women is anything like what it feels like in me. So it's, basically I'm doomed is what I'm saying. You understand. So The Fireman by Deborah Garrison. God forgive me. It's the firemen leaning in the firehouse garage with their sleeves rolled up on the hottest day of the year. As usual, the darkest one is handsomest. The oldest is handsomest. The one with the thin, wiry arms is handsomest. The young one already going bald is handsomest. And so on. Every day I pass them at their station, the word sexy wouldn't do them justice. Such idle men are divine, especially in summer, when my hair sticks to the back of my neck, a dirty wind from the subway grate blows up my skirt, and I feel vulgar, lifting my hair, gathering it together, tying it back while they watch, as a kind of relief. Once, one of them walked beside me to the corner, looked into my eyes. He said, "Will I never see you again?" Gutsy, I thought. I'm afraid not, I thought. What I said was, I'm sorry. But how could he look into my eyes if I didn't look equally into his? I'm sorry, as though he'd come close, as though this really were a near miss. Whatever it's about, that's an incredibly well-crafted piece of writing with a lot of rhyme and meter and all kinds of sophisticated stuff that I'm really, I was better at when I was writing songs. Yeah. Now the idea is to stay away from all of that because I'm a poet now. Though I try not to have that kind of attitude. Anyway, folks, thanks for showing up. 8:01, I guess I must have turned that alarm off. I was kind of waiting for it with a certain sense of trepidation, but still, one more shot of red wine before I leave you. I'll leave you for what will be a two-wick candle. A 2-week break from the poetry break. A poetry break. Yeah. Somebody should start a little Tuesday night live stream thing called the Poetry Break. No, let's not do that. We don't need any spin-offs. We're having enough trouble holding it together on the original here. Well, Allen Ginsberg looks kind of orange in that light, doesn't he? Yeah, that's cool. Anyway, thank you all for showing up and for holding me up and keeping me together. And we'll be gone next week for very good reason. We got a note from our doctors and such what. So, we'll be back on what's the week? August the 8th, right? Because August 1st is a Tuesday, so August the 8th would be the next one. That's when we will return, okay? Tell your friends, because I don't want people showing up next week thinking they can't get in or watching this week's over again and saying, didn't you read that last week? Why is he repeating the same poem 2 weeks in a row? I don't get that. That kind of thing. Because you've long since stopped looking at it. You just have it on in the background while you're doing the dishes. Feeding the dog. Things of that nature. Okay, I'm so glad we covered that. In the meantime, have a poetic couple of weeks. It'll be extra demanding of you to include poetry in your daily life without me here once a week hammering you over the head with it, right? I just stole from Fenton Duvall without even knowing it. Wow. Fenton Duvall. Yeah. Anyway, folks, have a great couple of weeks. We will do our best to do exactly that as well. And we will see you on Tuesday night, August the 8th, 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time.